Okay. R- Right. Okay. Uh, okay. Okay. Thanks very much. Okay. Thanks very much for the introduction. Um, so yes, my name's Matt Hamilton. I'm the principal developer advocate at RippleX. And like I said, I'm very honored to be giving this presentation to the Indian Institute of Technology today. This is also being broadcast out on Twitch on the RippleX Dev Twitch stream as well. So for those of you on Twitch, hello as well. Hopefully you can hear everything fine as well. And any questions that go into Twitch, I should be able to answer as well. Any questions from people at IIT, and obviously put into Zoom, you can put them in the chat, and I'll cover them either as we go along, or we'll have a Q&A session at the end there. So hopefully that's all good. So yes, and thank you very much to Saurav for inviting me along, and also to my colleague Jackson Mills, who kind of facilitated this meeting and this event, and is also the one that came up with the title of this talk, Zero to Builder, and put together the kind of general synopsis of what we're going to be talking about. So here we go. So a quick agenda about what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to be talking about what is the XRP Ledger and why you'd want to build on it. We're going to be talking about how do you find real use cases. So if you're a developer and you want to build something, then how do you go about finding that? And we're going to do a bit of a sort of an interactive session as part of that as well. I'm then going to talk a bit about integrating with the XRP Ledger and show a few examples of some code. I was hoping to actually run through a bit more interactively with that and actually run some of the code. We'll see whether that works or not. There was experiencing a problem just before this with that, because we're interacting with a test net, and I think there's the test net has just been reset, and I think there may be a issue with that. So we'll see how that goes. It may or may not work by the time I get to that point. We're then going to take a short break, a 5-minute break, and I'm then going to talk about the ecosystem and community of the XRP Ledger and XRP developers. And then I'm going to talk about contributing to open source projects, why you should contribute to open source projects and how to find out more. And then we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So hopefully that's all good. So great. So on we go. So first of all, what is the XRP Ledger and why would you build on it? So first of all, to just understand the XRP Ledger, first of all, I want to frame things with respect to what is XRP, what is the XRP Ledger, what is Ripple, the company that I work for, and what is Ripplenet. So there's a number of pieces here, and they sometimes get confused when people are talking about it. So I just want to set these out first. It'll just make that a little bit easier as we go on, and if you're having further conversations about XRP. So first of all, we have Ripple, which is a company. So Ripple is a company I work for, and Ripple deliver a product called Ripplenet. And Ripplenet is a proprietary, permissioned, closed source network for connecting banks and financial institutions worldwide, right? So that is a system that banks can apply to be part of. And Ripplenet is not just a physical network, but it's also like a business network. There's a kind of a membership, and there's rules and meetings and all that kind of stuff that allow different financial institutions to collaborate with each other. So that is Ripplenet. Then also within Ripple, there is RippleX, which is the open source development platform. RippleX is the division of Ripple that I work for. And under RippleX, we use the XRP Ledger. So the XRP Ledger is independent, is a permissionless, decentralized public blockchain that anybody can use to do transactions. So similar to, say, Bitcoin or Ethereum, it's a public, decentralized network that anybody can transact on, right? So there's two separate networks. There's Ripplenet and there's the XRP Ledger. The XRP Ledger was actually created by 3 developers back in 2011, 3 Bitcoin developers that wanted a network that had the features of Bitcoin, allowed you to do peer-to-peer transactions without a trusted third party, but that didn't have the energy requirements of Bitcoin, because they could see way back then in 2011 that the energy usage of Bitcoin is effectively unbounded and is going to be increasing over time. So they set about to try and see if they could create a kind of almost like a version of Bitcoin that didn't use proof of work. Proof of work was revolutionary when it came out with Bitcoin, and is the kind of the key invention that allows Bitcoin to function. Their view was, can we do the same thing but use a more efficient consensus algorithm? So the XRP Ledger has a consensus algorithm that doesn't use proof of work and relies upon a number of validator nodes run by independent parties around the world to collaborate to form consensus on the order of transactions. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. And then as well as that, you have XRP, which is the digital asset. So like you have the Bitcoin blockchain or the Ethereum blockchain, you also have Bitcoin and you have Ether. With the XRP Ledger, you have XRP. It's the native digital asset of the XRP Ledger. And it's used for paying the transaction fees, which I'll cover in a bit, are very minimal. Some people invest in it. Some people use it directly for payments as well. And I'll talk a bit about some of the features of the XRP Ledger as we go along. So here we go. Like I said, the XRP Ledger, it's an open, decentralized, permissionless blockchain. I've got a slide here, but I can actually show you kind of a live view here of transactions going by. So you can see every 3 to 4 seconds, a new block goes by. So on average at the moment, it's 3.8 seconds. And the average transaction fee at the moment is 0.002 XRP, right? That is actually slightly high, actually, to be honest with you. It's normally there's a few more zeros in there at the start of that, but the minimum fee for a transaction on the XRP Ledger, just to put this in perspective, the minimum fee is 10 drops. So a drop is 1/1,000,000th of an XRP. So there's 1,000,000 drops per XRP, and the fee is 10 drops. So the transaction fee is normally 10/1,000,000ths of an XRP. You can increase that transaction fee if the network is under load and you want to get in kind of sort of higher in the queue. But on average, most transactions go through within 3 seconds if they make it into the next block. If they don't make it into the next block, they'll be there the block after, so maybe 6 seconds, right? So it's a very efficient network and very fast to transact on. Like I said, it's decentralized. There's nodes kind of all over the world. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Sure. So just to repeat the question, because I've just realised that those on Twitch won't be able to hear the questions coming from IIT. The question was, is it because of the consensus algorithm that the transactions are able to go through so fast? And the short answer is yes. So the way that the consensus mechanism works on the XRP Ledger, and I can actually illustrate this as well here, there's a number of these validator nodes around the world. And there's even one ISRDC.in in India. And these nodes all vote on the order of transactions. So just to take a step back, if you remember, the problem that proof of work is solving is what's called the double spend problem. That's the big problem to solve with cryptocurrencies. So on a traditional centralized network, like if you're using something like a Visa debit card or something like that, there's a central database that records all transactions and records the balances. So if you go into a shop and you pay with a debit card, then the machine, the point of sale machine, will contact the bank and will say, does Matt have $100 in his account to buy this $100 item? And the central database will come back and basically say yes or no and allow the transaction to go through. Now, because there's a central database, the transactions can only go through in one order, right? There's a central arbiter of all transactions. The downside to that being is that there's a central arbiter for all transactions. And that means there's a central point that can be attacked. There's a central point of failure. There's a central point for, say, control and censorship. Obviously, financial censorship and control is something that's very topical at the moment in the news. But the point being is, if there's a central database, there's a central point where someone can apply censorship or sanctions on transactions there. So the point of Bitcoin initially was to ensure that there wasn't a central point for the transactions to go through, and the transactions were verified by a global network. Now, the big problem being is if you send a transaction to one node in India, and at the same time you send a transaction to one node in Australia, which transaction should go first, right? There's a delay between the time in which all of the nodes on the network will see those transactions, because there will be delays in the network, the physical speed of light, the physical speed by which transaction can propagate, the nodes that have to relay the transactions, intermittent connectivity perhaps. So the big problem being is you will have a node in India thinking that one transaction came first, and a node in Australia thinking a different transaction came first. And that enables what's called the double spend problem by having that inconsistency, because it means I can spend $100 to Saurav. I can also spend potentially that same $100 to Raul as well if I'm quick enough, right? So what you need to do is get all of the nodes to agree on the order in which the transactions happened, so you know that the first transaction is valid, the second transaction is invalid because you've already spent those funds. So the XRP Ledger simplifies this process by just saying we just need to agree on transaction ordering. Now, what you're seeing on the screen here is a visualization of the validators proposing a set of ordering for the current transactions that appear in a block. So each one of these blocks that comes by that has, 50 or 100 transactions, each of these little colored dots here are transactions, and they represent different types of transactions. I'll talk about that in a bit. So each one of these that goes past, the validators are trying to agree on the order by which those transactions occur. And this is what you're seeing here, is that they broadcast their view and they look at their neighbors and then try and they change their vote to be consistent with the neighbors. It's what's called an avalanche protocol. And eventually you end up with all of the nodes, or the vast majority of the nodes, in agreement. And the protocol requires just 80% of them to be in agreement for the consensus process to continue. But that is a much faster way of solving the double spend problem than what Bitcoin does, which is having proof of work in which you have each of the nodes effectively, it's kind of a bit like a competition or a lottery. Each one of them tries to solve a algorithmic challenge, a puzzle, and that requires vast amounts of energy. And the idea being is that you can't, fake that energy usage. And the node that solves that puzzle first is the node that is responsible for the order of transactions, right? So the whole point with the XRP Ledger consensus mechanism is that it is much faster, like I said, 3 to 4 seconds, which means that transactions can go through much quicker. There's also another benefit to this, and that is the finality of transactions. So with Bitcoin, if you've used Bitcoin, each block comes about roughly every 10 minutes, but it is probabilistic. It might be a block comes 5 minutes, it might be 20 minutes, but it's roughly every 10 minutes. And there's a chance that there may be another block, another chain on the network that is being worked on that is actually takes priority over yours. So what you have to do is wait a certain number of blocks past to be confident that your transaction is in the longest chain, the chain with the most proof of work that's done on it. Typically, most systems wait, say, 6 confirmations. So one block's every 10 minutes. So you wait about an hour to know that your transaction is final. If it's a lower value transaction, you might decide to forego that. But if you're sending a large value of money, then you're probably going to want to wait 1 hour to ensure that that has gone through. With the XRP ledger, the finality is deterministic, which means once a block is closed, that's it. The transactions are final. You don't have to wait for confirmations. So this is most obvious if you deposit cryptocurrency on a centralized exchange. So if you go to deposit cryptocurrency on, Binance or Kraken or Bitstamp or somewhere like that, then quite often you'll see you make the deposit and you'll have to wait an hour before those funds are available on the exchange or in a wallet or wherever you're sending them to. Whereas with XRP, it's there within a matter of seconds for you to be able to transact. So that's the big difference there. Hopefully that answers that. No problem. So as I mentioned, some properties of the XRP ledger here. It's cheap. Like I said, you're talking a thousandth of a cent per transaction, versus if you've used something like Ethereum, at the moment you're looking at sort of $50 per transaction. Bitcoin, you're talking $5-10, something like that per transaction. So the XRP ledger opens up a whole different business model. The fact that you can do much faster, much cheaper transactions. It's also very liquid. It's available on over 100 exchanges worldwide. It's traded against a lot of different fiat pairs. So if you're trying to trade in and out of different cryptocurrencies or different fiat currencies, the chances are XRP is going to be listed there. So just again, to recap the consensus comparison, I kind of talked a little bit about this just now, but if you compare, say, Bitcoin to XRP, Bitcoin, you're looking at roughly an hour to settle, whereas XRP, you're talking 3 to 4 seconds to settle. Fees, $1 to $20 per transaction on Bitcoin, a thousandths of a cent on the XRP ledger. The Bitcoin network can do, say, 7 to 10 transactions per second. The XRP ledger normally can go up to 1,500 transactions per second. The energy consumption, you've no doubt heard a lot about the energy consumption of Bitcoin. It's very substantial and also has additional knock-on effect. You probably saw when the Bitcoin miners were banned from China, a lot of them moved to Kazakhstan. They then absorbed a lot of the energy requirement within Kazakhstan, which then increased the utility bills for people in Kazakhstan, which then obviously affected them. The XRP ledger has negligible energy consumption. And the XRP ledger is now, 69, it's actually now up to 70 million ledgers closed without issue. And like I said, it's a predictable consensus mechanism. So the transactions go through in 3 to 4 seconds. You're not sitting there waiting to work out, is it in the next 10 minutes? Is it 20 minutes or whatever, an hour with Bitcoin? So one of the really cool features about the XRP ledger that is enabled by this is the ability to have issued assets, right? IOUs or tokens, you'll sometimes see them referred to as different terminology in the documentation. So you can issue your own currencies on the XRP ledger. The XRP ledger is a multi-currency network. So similarly to, say, Ethereum, where you have ERC20 tokens, you have tokenization on the XRP ledger. Now, the XRP ledger was the first blockchain to have a decentralized exchange built in, and the first to offer what we now call stable coins or tokens. It was so early that the words didn't even really exist then to describe it, so they were referred to as IOUs on the XRP ledger, because they were tokens that represented some claim, some IOU on some other physical asset elsewhere. So it might be US dollars or gold or something like that that's off chain, and the token represents your ownership of that asset. The XRP ledger explicitly supports the notion of debt obligations. So what that means is, like I said, with the IOUs, is it explicitly recognizes that the IOU is a debt, right? If I hold, so again, if you go compare it to something like USDC or USDT on Ethereum, right? An ERC20 token that represents US dollars. It's issued by, say, Tether or Center. When somebody sends you USDT, what those tokens are is they're representing a debt that Tether owe you a corresponding amount of US dollars. And you should be able to take those tokens, go back to Tether and redeem that debt and collect those US dollars, right? But it is a debt, and it's sometimes not obvious to people that that's the case. And those debts are sold and sent around. So if I send somebody some USDT, what I'm actually doing is I'm selling them that debt obligation for the USDT. Now, the XRP Ledger makes this explicit, and you have to open what's called a trust line in order to hold one of these debt obligations. So if I'm wanting to hold something like USDC, then I have to open a trust line that says I'm willing to allow the issuer of USDC to owe me up to a certain value. So I might say I only trust them for up to $1,000, but I don't trust them any further, right? So it's an explicit representation on the XRP ledger rather than an implicit one in something like Ethereum. And what is interesting is you can make payments by what's called rippling debts. This is where the name Ripple came from originally. And the way this works is, say, for example, two people both owe a debt to a common person. So myself and Rakesh both owe Swarev, $100 US dollars, right? I can actually pay Rakesh by adjusting my debt to Swarev. So I can say, hey, Swarev, I'm going to pay off $20 of Rakesh's debt. So now Rakesh owes $20 less. So he only owes Swarev $80. I owe Swarev $120, right? And I've effectively paid Rakesh by virtue of adjusting those debt obligations. And this is actually exactly what a bank account does. If you think about a bank account, you owe, when you open a bank account and the bank account balance is, you have $100, what that actually means is the bank owes you $100, right? And you can pay another person at your bank by adjusting that debt. That's what happens. I don't physically give that other person $100. I instruct the bank to adjust my debt and say, the bank now owes me less and owes them more, right? So that's a pretty cool thing on the XRP ledger. Another thing that it allows is cross-currency payments. So I can make a payment and I can say, I want to pay 1,000 euros to this person or 100 euros to this person, but I want to fund it with Bitcoin that I have in my XRP Ledger wallet, right? And it will look at the decentralized exchange. It will find orders on the decentralized exchange in order to convert that to actually make a trade to make that payment automatically within 3 seconds, right? So it means that it's a universal currency converter, and I can pay from one to the other. And what's really cool is that the XRP Ledger will actually do a thing called pathfinding to find the best way to make that payment. So I want to pay somebody euros and I've got Bitcoin. Actually, what might happen is that Bitcoin gets traded to US dollars, the US dollars gets traded to XRP, and the XRP gets traded to euros, right? And again, you can represent anything as a debt on the XRP Ledger. So it might be that I want to pay 100 euros, but I want to pay with bananas. And the bananas get traded for coffee, the coffee gets traded for sugar, the sugar gets traded for shoes, and the shoes then end up getting traded for euros, right? So the XRP Ledger allows these payments to cross currency. And then a new development that's happening is a standard called XLS20, which is a standard for supporting non-fungible tokens on the XRP Ledger. Like I said, the XRP Ledger was the first blockchain to support tokenization. The XRP Ledger was created, like I said, in 2011, so about 3-4 years before Ethereum, and allowed the idea of tokenizing assets, but it was always thought those would be fungible tokens. Again, dollars, euros, gold, silver, Bitcoin, whatever it might be. Now there's a move towards non-fungible tokens being used for various use cases, and XLS20 is a standard for doing that. Now, what's cool about XLS20. Now, this is live on the DevNet of the XRP Ledger. It's not live on mainnet yet. The XRP Ledger is decentralized. What has to happen is a proposal called an amendment is put to the network, and the validators, all of these nodes that I kind of showed earlier on here around the world, they have to vote on the approval of that amendment. So XLS20 is not live at the moment. An amendment will probably be put to the network sometime in the next month or so, and then it'll be up to the network to then vote on it. But what is interesting with XLS20, and similarly to the existing tokenization functionality in the existing decentralized exchange, is that it's all done without the requirement of smart contracts. So any like DEX on, say, Ethereum or Solana or one of the other networks that uses, say, Solidity-based smart contracts, the DEX is built using smart contracts. Whereas with the XRP Ledger, the DEX, and in this case, NFTs, are native functionality on the network. And you'll see this in a bit when I show you the code as to how easy it is to create NFTs. So XLS20 introduces a number of new transactions. So for example, there's an NFT token mint transaction that allows you to create a token and specify things such as a transfer fee. And that allows secondary sale commission, right? So I create an NFT and I sell it for $100 to one person. I can set a 5% royalty fee, for example. And if that person then sells that transaction, that NFT for $100, sells it for $1,000, it will then send 5% of that $1,000 back to me as commission. There's various fields you can set as to whether a transaction is transferable, whether it's burnable. There's some other bits in there. And you can set a URI field that points to the actual NFT metadata as well. So that might be a JPEG, that might be some JSON, data that represents something that the NFT is representing. You can burn NFTs, NF token burn, and you can trade NFTs. So you can create offers, cancel offers, accept offers. So these are all done on the XRP Ledger, decentralized. So you don't need a marketplace to actually do these trades, right? You might have a marketplace to give a nice user interface, but the actual trading itself happens on the blockchain itself. So I can create an offer to sell an NFT. So I create my NFT and I say, right, I'm willing to sell this for whatever, 100 XRP. And then somebody can choose to accept that if they want to or not. They can also make an offer to buy it off of me. So they can say, well, I'm willing to buy this for 90 XRP. And I can then choose whether or not I accept that offer to buy it, right? Great. So talking about real use cases, what are the use cases for XRP? How do you find use cases if you're going to build stuff? So one of the great ways that XRP is helping is very much down to the characteristics of the XRP, the fact that it's very cheap and the fact that it is very fast to move. So remittances, companies like Ripple use the XRP Ledger for remittances worldwide. So the way that Ripple use the XRP Ledger is if you want to send a payment from India to Thailand, then what happens is if it went through Ripple's system, then what would happen is the Indian rupee would be sold for XRP. The XRP would be transferred to Thailand. The XRP would then be sold for Thai baht and delivered to the end, right? Now that kind of end-to-end sort of financial transaction, that's the bit that Ripple kind of control, but it uses the XRP Ledger underneath for that buying and selling and transferring as well. Decentralized finance, like I said, there's the built-in decentralized exchange in the XRP Ledger, so you can use that for kind of representing, tokenizing different assets, buying and selling things as well. And small payments, so things like micro payments, because the fees are so small, you can make very small payments, right? It's economical to send somebody, the equivalent of, 10 cents on the XRP Ledger, right? Because the fees are thousandths of a cent. And if you want to go even smaller than that, there's what are called payment channels, and you can open a payment channel and you can stream payments. So similar to the way the Bitcoin network has Lightning, the XRP Ledger had something that was created at the start called payment channels, allows you to stream payment. So for example, there's a company called Coil that allows streaming payment for content creators. So if I create like a video and I upload it to a video site, when somebody is watching that video, their browser can be sending payment live, literally per second, to the content creator whilst they're watching it. And that has various knock-on effects. You can disrupt the whole funding model based around advertising, for example, right? Why have adverts when you can pay directly? And if you have a decentralized open system, then it's much quicker for people as well. It's much easier. They don't have to set up separate accounts, for example. Those are some examples. I also mentioned about NFTs as well. People have started to build things like NFT marketplaces. I talked to some people that were using NFTs on the XRP Ledger for ocean conservation. So they're actually representing various ocean species, fish and other animals under the sea as NFTs. They're then sort of selling those in order to raise money for ocean conservation efforts, for example. So there's a lot of interesting things going on there. And XRP was designed with sustainability in mind, right? Because you don't have the mining function that Bitcoin has, it uses much less energy. So there's cases where people might not be comfortable using something like Ethereum, because if you're trying to do something around sustainability of the oceans, then maybe you don't want to be using a blockchain in which it uses a vast amount of energy, for example. So the XRP Ledger is very good for that. Now, around the business models of the XRP Ledger does not directly incentivize participation. So with something like Bitcoin or Ethereum, if you run a node on the network, you get paid a portion of the fees for running a node, or you get paid, and proof of work, you get paid a mining reward as well. On the XRP Ledger, fees are burnt. So the fees are very low. The sender of a transaction pays the fee, but the fees are just burnt. They don't go to any node operators. So there's a big question about, well, why does somebody want to run a node on the XRP Ledger? And normally the reason is because they have a business reason to do so, right? So they operate a business like an exchange, a wallet, a payment gateway, or a gaming system in which they want to access the XRP Ledger. So they run a node, because that way they don't have to trust anybody else, and they have control over their node there. So the nice thing being is you don't have what's called rent seeking. You don't have people participating in the network just to gain fees. So in Ethereum, there's a thing called MEV, maximum extractable value, and there's basically gaming going on in the network where participants in the network are basically trying to get the highest fee that they can from the network, right? Now that might be a detriment to the people that want to use the network, right? Miners want to have a high fee, users want to have a low fee. You've got a conflict of interest there. Whereas with the XRP Ledger, that conflict of interest doesn't exist. So the main people that are involved in the XRP Ledger do so because they genuinely have an interest in the XRP Ledger running. So going to do a bit of an interactive bit here. So if you've got a piece of paper and a pen or somewhere to type something down, what I'd like you to do is spend just 3 minutes coming up with a just series of ideas, just brainstorm ideas on what you could do with XRP, the DEX, NFTs, whatever it might be. So we're going to do that for 3 minutes. And then we're going to have a 10-minute session in which we're going to combine ideas to come up with new, cooler ideas, right? So we were going to do it in a breakout, but we're going to do it in the main room here. People who are on Twitch, feel free to join in the chat, come up with some ideas over the next 3 minutes, and then put your ideas in the chat on Twitch. People at IIT, like I said, 3 minutes, and then we can turn mics on, we can have a 10-minute discussion. And the idea will be to try and kind of combine ideas with other people and see what kind of cool idea you can come up with. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so we'll go away for 3 minutes now. Just have a brainstorm of different ideas you can come up with for things to do with on the XRP Ledger. Okay, I'll start my 3 minutes. He says, start my 3 minutes now. Okay, go for it. 1 minute to go. Okay, right. How did people get on? If you want to, by all means, come off mute and kind of say any ideas you've got. We'll sort of take 10 minutes to have a kind of a discussion about some of the ideas, maybe try and combine them and see what interesting stuff we can come up with. Like I said, anybody in Twitch, feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll see what we come up with. Hello. Yeah, I can hear you. That's great to hear. Okay, cool. So what idea have you got? Okay, have you got an idea about what it might be for your NFT project you want to launch? Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's some projects doing similar kind of thing, generative art things. So there's a project called Xpunks, for example, that are building sort of generative art little characters. And another company called Xrooms who's doing these little mushroom characters as well. So yeah, that's certainly a good idea. Uh, yeah, yeah, that'd be cool. Okay. There's a suggestion that's come in from Twitch, which is a Panini NFT sticker album. I don't know if Panini's a brand in India, but at least where I grew up in the UK, you would buy a sticker album, like a book, and you would go and spend your pocket money buying little packets of stickers that would each have, say, different, football players or whatever in different sports, and you would stick them in the book and try and collect them all. So I'm Alex Winter has got an idea for doing that using NFTs, using the Euros football going on, or a fantasy football team, for example, and then maybe use them in the metaverse, almost like a five-a-side football game in the metaverse. That's a pretty cool idea. Um, so cool. Any other ideas people have come up with in at IoT? Yeah, Right. Yeah. That's a pretty cool idea. Yeah, just to repeat that for those in Twitch, the general gist is using NFTs for airline booking, for seat booking. So in order to kind of prove the order in which you booked your seats. So if you're trying to board an airline, and to show that your ticket was purchased first, that you get priority seating, or better seating. And I guess you could apply that to a wider topic, right? Not just airlines, but any kind of um, thing in which you're queuing to get something. I mean, maybe it's you're queuing to, I don't know, buy the latest Xbox or something, right? Yeah, 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 yeah. And there's another example that's come in, a suggestion from the Netherworld on Twitch. It said NFTs instead of serial numbers for manufacturers. So yes, if you kind of created an NFT with each device that you sold that was tied to the serial number for that device, then maybe that would allow you access to the warranty, for example, right? If I buy a domestic appliance, I buy a washing machine, and it has a 1 year warranty or something like that, then normally I would go to a website and I would put in the warranty information. Now, in some cases that's fine to do that in a sort of a centralized system, but if I then sell the washing machine on to somebody else, maybe it's not a washing machine, maybe it's a car or something like that that might have a longer lifetime. You want to transfer that warranty, then maybe that could follow it as well. So you can have an NFT that represents the warranty of your car, and if you sold your car in say 2 years, the NFT goes with it, and that allows that person access to the warranty information, maybe the service history, and all of that kind of thing as well. That'd be quite cool. So cool. Any other ideas in IIT? Well, no. Okay, I'll look in Twitch as well. A modification has said the Sologenic Foundation has this idea of being able to trade listed shares using XRP. Yeah, that's quite a cool one that they're doing. They are tokenizing stocks and shares on the XRP ledger, and so you can actually buy fractionalized shares in various assets. So if you want to buy a part of a share in Tesla or Apple or whoever it might be, then you can actually buy that, and they represent those on the XRP ledger as well, which is pretty cool. Okay, any more suggestions? One more? Don't move on. No. Okay. Cool. Let's go on then. So that was good. Just to get some ideas and get some people coming up with some ideas there. So integrating with the XRP ledger. How do you go about integrating with the XRP ledger? So the XRP ledger, um, there's effectively two things you can do with the XRP ledger: uh, transactions and requests. Right? Transactions change the world, and requests observe the world and read from it. Now, you can interact with the XRP Ledger with different languages. There's SDKs for JavaScript, Java, Python. There's also community members that are working on Go, Ruby, I think possibly Rust as well. And there's a WebSocket, connection you can go directly to as well from your own language. But just to give you an example here of a transaction, this is some code for making a payment transaction. This is in JavaScript, and is this going forward here? I can't highlight it. Let's see here. So we start off at the top. Most of the time we follow a similar kind of pattern. So we prepare a transaction. So in this case, it's a payment transaction, and we have an account here that we want to make a payment to. We have an amount, and the amounts are specified in drops in the API. So in this case, it's 22 XRP. It gets converted to drops, so basically times by 1 million, so it becomes 22 million drops to go in the API. And we give a destination. So that's the address, starts with an R as a public address on the XRP ledger. So this is saying we want to make a payment from our wallet address of 22 XRP to this address. We use this function here called autofill, and that fills in some of the bits and pieces that are sort of fairly automatic, but we could go in and manually set those if we wanted to. But that sets in a lot of automatic bits like transaction fees and how long you want the transaction to last for if it doesn't go through immediately, what's called a last ledger sequence, for example. So we're just logging some stuff here. We then sign the transaction. So we call this wallet.sign transaction here, sign our prepared transaction. Once it's signed, we've then got a hash, and we can print out the hash and the signed blob, and we then submit that transaction. So we're using this client submit and wait. So that submits a transaction to the network and waits for it to be confirmed in the next block when it goes through, right? So typically this transaction will take, like I say, 3 or 4 seconds to come back to you. You can also do it asynchronously, submit it and go and check back later yourself as well, especially if you want to send multiple transactions. But that's the general pattern. You prepare a transaction, you sign a transaction, you submit a transaction. And there's many different types of transaction on the XRP ledger. So I showed you here the transactions going through. And if I just pause here and highlight these different dots are different colors. These blue ones, for example, are offer creates. So those are transactions that are creating an offer to buy or sell on the decentralized exchange. So if I click on that, we'll have a look and see what that one looks like. What is this? So this is somebody willing to buy 50,000 XRP for 35,000, nearly 36,000 US dollars, right? So they're placing an offer on the XRP Ledger decentralized exchange, right? And somebody else can place a corresponding offer that will complete that, and the trade will happen, right? So, but you can see these transactions go by. There's things like offer creates, offer cancels, payments. There's kind of administrative ones like account set various bits of metadata, and there's the NFT ones that I mentioned as well that'll be coming soon as well. And like I said, requests tell you about information. So this first one here, we're requesting the account info for this account, and we want the validated ledger index. I can ask for a prior ledger index, so I can say, give me the value, the account information for what this account looked like 10 minutes ago, or 5 years ago if I wanted to, and that will give me the account information that includes things like the balance of the account, what transactions, what offers they might have open on the DEX, that sort of thing. And another one here is for looking at NFTs. So I can say, give me all the NFTs that this account has, and it will come back and list those for me, right? And I can kind of show you here. This is just to switch language. This is Python, and here I've got some Python in which I'm actually minting an NFT here. So I'm connecting to the XLS20 sandbox testnet here at the top. I'm instantiating a wallet, and this address that starts with an S is the private key. Typically, you wouldn't want this to be broadcast across Zoom to everybody, but this is a test net, so it's not real money, it doesn't matter in this case. And I'm minting a NFT here. And I've got no URI here. I'm not pointing to any kind of JPEG or anything. This is just a straight NFT that has a transaction memo that just says minted by the dealer. This is intended for some code for like a card game, as an example I was going to be working on for this. So we've got the arguments here. We call this, we instantiate an object here, an NFT mint transaction object. And again, we do the same thing. We sign the transaction and then we submit the transaction. And we're doing a similar thing here. We're auto-filling some of the defaults and we're submitting it using this send reliable submission, which means we send it and we would then wait for the result to come back from the network as well. Like I said, I was having a little bit of a problem with the network, but let's see if that, I'll see if that works. Let's try it and see. If I execute it, run the Python, maybe it'll work, maybe it'll come back with an error still. An error. The demo gods are not with me today, I'm afraid. But hopefully that gives you an example of that sort of thing. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then I'm going to come back and talk a little bit more about some further stuff about the XRP Ledger and about getting involved with the XRP Ledger and with the open source community. So we'll be back in 5 minutes. I'll see you then. Okay, right. Fantastic. We can continue again. Um, just had some great ideas that are just coming in the chat that I've just seen that I didn't spot earlier. Ratchet has an idea about using the XRP Ledger for continuous software development and basically paying for people as they're building software. I actually created an interesting kind of concept to that using GitHub and GitHub Actions that meant when you submitted when you did a commit in GitHub, the GitHub action would scan the commit message, look for a wallet address, and make a payment to that address automatically. And you could then specify certain things like if they increase the test coverage. So every commit that increases the test coverage would get payment, for example. So there's some interesting ideas could do around there. And a modification in Twitch says, just another idea, accounting systems, company like QuickBooks or Sage, be able to tokenize subscriptions. Yeah, tokenized subscriptions is a good idea. Again, if you kind of sell something on, then maybe you could makes it easier to transfer the subscription of a service to somebody else. Now, I imagine that some of these services business models are hoping that you don't ever be able to transfer the ownership over, and that you then have to go and buy a new one. But who knows? So, right, let's continue on then. So, ecosystem and the community. So, I'm going to list a number of resources here for you to have a look at. I'm also including a QR code here as well. That QR code will take you to the URL listed on the site there if you want to scan that. So the first one is the Discord server. So there's an XRP Ledger Discord server you can go to, and there's, I mean, at the moment about 1,000 or so people on there. There's lots of different channels related to different programming languages. So as you can see here, JavaScript, Java, Python, for example. Things like NFTs, sidechains, integration with Sum, which is a wallet. There's a Rust channel for people wanting to integrate in with Rust. And then there's things about hackathons, meetups, students, for example, on there. So that's a really good one in there. And a colleague of mine, Abner, who goes by the handle of Bias Goose, is often on there as well if people need help. But it's big community kind of in there, which is good. Next example, this is going to go on. Yeah, there we go. Hackathons. So we have a hackathon currently running at the moment, xrplnft.devpost.com. And so this hackathon at the moment is running for another 11 days. It's probably 10 days actually by now, since I took the screenshot yesterday. And it's a hackathon around NFTs, right? And there is a $50,000 US prize fund, and you can participate in there, submit ideas, and they'll be judged in, like I said, about 10 days' time. People to go through those. So, yep. If you want to work on wider projects, so there's the XRP Ledger Grants Program. Now, this is a program that has more substantial funding for projects wanting to build on the XRP Ledger. And actually, said Wave 3 applications will open in March. I think Wave 3 applications actually just opened. Yeah, apply now. They opened half an hour ago and are available if people have ideas there. If you go into the grantees section at the top of the site, you can get an idea of the different projects that have been funded. So we do this in waves, and each wave is open for a certain number of months. So we're just opening Wave 3. Wave 2 has been, we've got the grantees here listed here, so you can see Wave 2 and Wave 1. You can see the kind of projects that have been funded by Ripple for people building on the XRP Ledger. So you get an idea of the kind of the diversity of what people are building and the kind of levels of funding that are available if you want to do that. There's community meetups. So there's a meetup group on meetup.com. You can go there, and there's like I say, there's a number of meetups around the world, 5 different countries at the moment. you look at that map and you think that might be a mistake. There's a dot in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean, or in the North Atlantic Ocean, that's actually Tenerife. There is a meetup there. Maybe we could get one going in India. There's not one listed there yet, but if people here want to organize one, then Ripple can help facilitate that, maybe give a bit of funding and promotion effort as well to do that. But there's a number of meetups around for people to kind of get together to talk about stuff they're doing with the XRP Ledger and kind of meet other people. So yeah, there we go. More talking now about generally about contributing to open source projects. And this is something you've not been involved with. Contributing to open source projects it's easier than you think. It's a great way of kind of giving back to the community, and it makes developers of open source software happy, right? If I maintain or if I publish a package or a piece of software, or whatever, and somebody wants to contribute to it, that's a great feeling, right? For me, and similarly, if you create something, release it open source, and other people contribute to it, hopefully you'll see it as a great feeling yourself as well. There's a great website, opensource.guide. It has a whole load of information on there, and that's kind of come from created by GitHub. But there's a whole bunch of kind of testimonials and details in there. So, for example, this person here, Aretia, said that working on Freenode, which is a IRC client, helps me earn many of the skills I later use for my studies in university and my actual job. I think working on an open source project helps me as much as it helps the project, right? And that's kind of really, that is very much true. I mean, if you look at the reasons for contributing to open source software and kind of what you get with it, so you're improving the software that you rely on. If you're using the XRP Ledger, if there's a bug or something you need fixed, then you can go in and fix it, right? You are improving it for other people as well. You're improving your existing skills. So you can hone your programming skills, you can learn a new programming skill. So like I said, there's ways to interact with the XRP Ledger in Python, JavaScript, Java. There's people working on Rust, Go. So if you want to learn a new language, then maybe one way to do it is to contribute to one of the libraries or some of the code that uses the libraries in that particular language. Meet people who are interested in similar things. I mentioned the meetups. You can, meet virtually or face-to-face with people and, talk to them about other things that they're interested in as well. Find mentors and teach others. Again, this is a great thing, and this happens a lot on the Discord channel as well. And so you can kind of help other people, achieve what they're trying to do as well on the Twitch. Whilst we're doing this live, like I said, this is being broadcast on Twitch, and there's a chat on Twitch, and there are people on the Twitch chat who are responding to some others there who are asking questions, right? So there's a developer, Nixer, who's on there, and he's responding to some of the others as well. So he's helping mentor and teach others, as well as learning himself and helping everybody else learn. You build public artifacts to help you grow a reputation and a career. This is a great one, right? Open source software by definition is publicly visible. So if you're going for a job and they say, well, what experience do you have? If you're going for a job as a developer, you could say, hey, look, this is code that I've contributed to. This is code I've written. This is where I submitted a bug request here. This is where I improved the documentation, or I went through and triaged some issues. It doesn't necessarily even have to be code related, right? You could go through and have a look at the documentation, read the documentation, use the product. If something's confusing, maybe it's confusing to other people. Maybe you could go in and improve the documentation, reword something, add a README if it doesn't exist, help with other people there. Learn people skills. This is another good one. With open source communities, you're dealing with lots of different people, different time zones, different languages, different ways of working. Sometimes there's conflicts that need resolving. So, it's a good way of kind of learning the skills that you'll quite often be using later in life or you're using within the workplace. And it's empowering to make even small changes, right? It is a great feeling, right? If you go in and it's like, hey, I fixed that bug, right? Or I made that easier to use, or I helped that other person, right? Even if it's something small, you don't know what other people know or don't know. And something that might seem insignificant to you might help somebody else still as well, right? So that's a great thing. So contributing to the XRP Ledger, I'll put a whole load of links here as examples to where various bits of the XRP Ledger ecosystem live. There's a lot more. This is just a sample. But the core XRP Ledger code lives under Ripple's repository at the moment. It's going to be moving to the XRP Ledger Foundation at some point soon. But github.com Ripple/RippleD. That's written in C++. That's the core code that runs the XRP Ledger, the actual software, the nodes on the network. Then we've got 3 of the software development kits, so Python, JavaScript, and Java. So XRPL-Py, XRPL.js, and XRPL4j. You can go and contribute to those. Like I said, documentation, the website, the actual xrpl.org website you go to is all open source, right? If you go there and a link is broken, you can go in and submit a pull request to fix that link. Or if something is outdated, or you can think of a better way of wording it, then you can contribute to that as well. And even so one of the most well-known wallets on the XRP Ledger, a wallet called Sum, is open source as well. So that's by a group called XRPL Labs based in the Netherlands, and their whole wallet is open source as well. So if there's an improvement or you want to contribute to that, you can do so with that as well. So there we go. I think that's kind of everything. So I'm going to open it up to Q&A for any questions that people have. If there's something that's not been covered, then feel free to either come off mute or put it in the chat on here. And then and if there's any further questions in Twitch, then feel free to put them in the chat in Twitch as well. I can see those here as well. So. Yes. The transaction fee high for the Sum app. I don't know if there is. Okay, I know that recently they put some additional code in to adjust the fee according to load. So that could be why. But I've certainly, when I've looked, I know the fee has been a lot lower than that. So that does slightly surprise me. 0.25 XRP. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anybody in from XRPL Labs is in the Twitch chat, but they might know. If they do, feel free to put a comment in the Twitch chat. But yeah, I don't know why. I think it should be lower. Transactions I've done have certainly been lower than that. So I know there was a period of time in which the transaction fee had increased on the XRP ledger because of load and because of an issue with the way that load was calculated. And that was maybe towards the end of last year, but that's resolved now. So depending on when you tried it, I'd certainly check again to see. But thank you very much. I'm not sure if your connection is stuttering there, but thank you very much. It's Very, very glad to be here, and thank you for inviting me. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Thank you, and thank you very much for having me. It's been great to chat to everybody. So, and like I said, yes, if you want to continue, then the link to the Discord channel is there. That's the best place to continue on if you have further questions as well. So, great. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Good night.